I punched his name into the search thing, and I just happened to come across like 4 perfect images, right, in order. People, I guess, don't like Seth Rogen. And even people who said they liked him in the past, as I did too. The guy was legitimately making, the kind of stupid stoner movies, but they landed on enough cylinders to be funny at a certain. It's something you watch at a certain time of your life, and it's funny. Like, it's just like stoner humor, but it mostly worked. It wasn't mean spirited. Where like Sarah Silverman she has a different pedigree where her stuff is mean spirited from the start. So anyway. So if I title this, "It's Okay to Hate Silverman and Rogen," they would demonetize the video, and I would lose that $3, which is a sacrifice I'm willing to make, because I'm sure I'm going to put something spicy in the title, because they're both the most vile, disgusting people. And I was going to say in Hollywood, but there are actual Weinstein types out there, which, keep in mind, these idiots, these Hollywood idiots, these monsters, were eager to applaud. How many images of those people standing up, Meryl Streep standing up and applauding Roman Polanski? Or all these, that image of Oprah sacrificing. Here, Weinstein, take the little white girl. There's photographs of her offering this girl up to sacrifice to Moloch. It's like all over the internet. It's like, how many skeletons are in Oprah Winfrey's closet? No wonder she's never run for office. How many skeletons are all these? Hollywood, what did Chuck D just burn? Hollywood burn. Keep in mind, Hollywood was eager to not call these people out. It's like, how long was Weinstein getting away with that kind of stuff? How come no one else said, hey, call up the FBI? Maybe we can set up a sting operation. Oh, no, I might not be a starlet. Yeah, but women are actually getting snuggled. Maybe call up the FBI, have them work on something. So not only are these people monsters, but they're also hypocritical douchebags, which is even worse. And sometimes I miss Twitter just for the opportunity to roast these people, but I don't miss the time it took on Twitter. Like, you get on Twitter and you look up and you're like, oh, I just spent an hour on Twitter and I accomplished absolutely nothing. It's like, that's an hour you'll never get back. Anyway, so Silverman and Rogen have this bad habit of throwing rocks from glass houses, like glass houses on a frozen lake in spring. Just don't dish it out if you can't take it. And I think, what's that, RT, the Russian Today news, had an article that was a kind of edgy for media, talking about Silverman and Rogen. It just kind of said exactly that. Like, listen, you went after Europeans, people of European descent, and Christians, and I don't know who was in the comments. Last time I checked the comments, there was like 20,000 comments, and they went after you and your background and your whatever, if it's a religion or what. It's like, they gave you some shit back, and because you put some shit out in the universe and you got it back. It's like, what did you expect? So now that Rogen is running to Twitter and just trying to do damage control, I guess, but it seems he seems to have lost the crowd on this one. But it's not forever. He'll be back. So I read Sarah Silverman's book a while ago. It's something called The Bedwetter: Tales of Courage. It's funny, but it's dark. It's legitimately dark. And I read all Chelsea Handler's books, which are just funny. She's really, really clever. And she's just not as deeply weird as Silverman. For some reason, I was reading those. I was reading autobiographies for some reason. Silverman, she's got actual mental health issues, and she's got issues with the beautiful people of the light. So she grew up feeling like a fish out of water, and she blamed blonde people because I guess she grew up in that kind of neighborhood. And she also had massive amounts of depression and anxiety, so maybe her judgment was a little bit cloudy. If you asked me a few years ago if there would be an alternative, I'm thinking like alternatives to Hollywood, and I look at alternatives to YouTube, and I look at Odysee and think, yeah, this is it. Like, it's not like it succeeded in areas where Bit Chute and all these other places has failed. Odysee has got everything cloned right now. They have live streaming, and they're monetized. So it's like, yes, they legitimately are the new YouTube. If you're doing stuff where you're just tired of censorship, which is going to be like more and more channels getting kicked off, it's like, yeah, that's the new YouTube. Eventually they're going to crack down, because as money comes in, advertising comes in, they'll get more woke, guaranteed. We'll go somewhere else. But the other thing is like thinking of like, well, can there be an alternative Hollywood? Yeah, probably. It's not going to start off with $200 million films for sure, but if you've got stuff like this, quotes like this, where Seth Rogen is openly saying he's going to discriminate against people, then you can use these kind of images and show these around as the driving force to create some kind of alternative, even if it's going to be small budget films, because you're looking at people and going, listen, you don't have an alternative. There's a lot of this kind of feeling in Hollywood where you're going to be discriminated against based on your ethnicity. If you're of European descent or Christian or conservative, well, you have zero chance in Hollywood unless you make your own Hollywood. So, like, things are possible right now that I didn't even consider 2 years ago. The thing is, like I was saying, a lot of people feel like a fish out of water. That's, if you're Russian in an Irish neighborhood, you're going to feel like that. But it doesn't give you the right to hate the people you grew up with, and by extension, hate everyone of that tribe. The whole concept of judging individuals goes out the window when it's anti-white or anti-Christian. The thing is, most of us get told feedback our whole life, and it's not necessarily always in a nice way, especially on Odysee and Bit Chute. But people like Sarah Silverman and Rogen, they're the producers and the directors of their shows. They're the ones who are starring in either movies or TV, so they're not getting the feedback that the rest of us are getting. Because if you're working on a show, it's like you're just in it for a paycheck. You're not going to be the one who tells the person who signs those paychecks that you've got a bad idea. Anyway, so the two things I remember were Sarah Silverman being in. It was Jesus is Magic, which even if you're not some kind of hardcore Christian, or even if you're not Christian at all, you're going to listen to that and you're like, I don't want to see anyone's religion get torn apart that way. That stand-up was weird. Or A Million Ways to Die in the West, which I watched again last night. So those two things stuck out because of how hateful they were to Christians and people of European descent. That is something that it takes the normie a second to wrap their heads around, that like Sarah Silverman and Seth Rogen really are racist, bigots, Christophobes, whatever you want to call it. They don't hide it because they don't have to hide it. Eventually the normie has this awakening, and back in 2014 when that movie came out, I wasn't that deeply down the red pill yet, but I saw it and it's like these little red pills, they stick out and they stick in the back of your mind, and they're just there. You never really forget them. Anyway, these people aren't kidding. They really are hateful bigots. They're everything that they claim to be against. They've stared into the abyss. These people are the abyss. Oddly enough, both of them have these paranoid delusions about some persecution complex. Maybe it's just that they're truly horrible people, and that people are seeing them for what they are. In A Million Ways to Die in the West, she plays a Christian whore. That's the joke. She's a filthy whore who's a dumb Christian. None of those Christian jokes landed. You look at her and you know, obviously she's not Christian. None of the jokes work. The viewer keeps waiting for the tension in the setup of the joke to resolve itself somehow. It never does. It's just Silverman pretending to be Christian. And it's weird. It's weird in a couple different directions, and it never lands in any direction. It just is like you leave these scenes. It's like, whoa, she really hates Christians, like to a degree that she's willing to make something that's not funny. Like it's funny if you're in an echo chamber of far left people. Maybe it's funny, but even then, you look at it and like, if you're in private, you look at each other and you're like, that was kind of awkward. Even when I saw it in 2014, it just sticks with you. Like when someone takes off the mask, you look at them and you're like, oh, this person's like a Louis Farrakhan type, or who's the guy on Twitter, Tariq Nasheed or something. Anyway, so I rewatched it last night and it clicked that she's willing to not be funny so she can insult Christians, and the lack of self-awareness is stunning. But where is the joke? It's a not Christian lady pretending to be Christian so she can insult them. She just takes off the mask, which is kind of awesome for our side because there's no need for us to put out propaganda when they kind of make their own. Anyway, so I was kind of wondering, would A Million Ways and Jesus' Magic fly if they came out tomorrow and they had their previews on YouTube? In 2014, that was only a few years ago, how do I say this? The structure wasn't in place to counter this sort of anti-white, anti-Christian hatred. Like, yeah, there was chat boards and things like that, we've got Gab, 4chan, Discord, Telegram, Odysee, Bit Chute to draw attention to like their evil behavior. And when I archived Santa Incorporated's the comments, which I don't even think I show on YouTube, they're like that one I just posted. They're insane. There was like 20,000 of them. It was weird to see that many people that pissed off about a show. But you know, it's fair enough. It's like you dish it out, you get it. Before they shut down the comments, like 90% of them were in that direction of anger. So the thing is, like, calling out Sarah Silverman and Seth Rogen, it doesn't make us Hugo Boss whatever types. That is the weirdest of weird strawmans. It's like that's the one go-to. It's like where everyone I don't like on the internet is literally Hitler. Or what they call supremacists is like, there's a lot of people who aren't white who think you're just a parasite who's just a racist asshole. Oh, well, those non-white white supremacists? Yeah, how does that work? The thing is, we're trying to shine a light on this anti-white, anti-Christian hatred, because you know it's time to wipe it out forever, so we can move towards a better tomorrow. Only when we dismantle and deconstruct their supremacy can we live in peace. Satire Incorporated doesn't make any sense, or rather it makes a whole lot of sense when you kind of see it for what it is. Keep in mind, Sarah Silverman was in that article where she was offended that people of her region of the world played parts that they weren't born in or something. Like, I'm not sure how that works because she said she's an atheist, but so I guess she's talking about ethnicity. Keep in mind, she's the same person who played a Christian whore. So that's Sarah Silverman. When I say there's mental illness, there's like you think mental illness. This is high functioning mental illness. This where like paranoid narcissism, borderline personality disorder. Like there's something wrong with both of these people, Sarah Silverman and Seth Rogen. It's a lack of self-awareness combined with this paranoid persecution. She gave an interview with some British guy where she was talking about how people hate her. And it's like you put the interview in a really weird spot because what's he supposed to say? Like, oh, no, they don't hate you. Or like the logical thing to say is, well, what have you done? Maybe, you know, don't, like you did Jesus' magic. It's like that was, you're anti-white, you're anti-Christian. You also did a song where you're dropping the N-word every other word. You know, and then you did A Million Ways to Die in the West, where you played a Christian horror, you made fun of the Bible, you made fun of Christians, and everyone, it's like, you think you're making these movies in a vacuum or something, or you think it's like people are not, it's just in and out of the conscious? It's like, yeah, it is mostly, but some things stick. Like when people see this kind of, this hatred, it sticks. They go, oh, this is how she really feels this way. Like, yeah, she's got issues. Like I said, read her book if you want. You can find it. You can sail for it online. She legitimately has issues, even more so than Rogen. The thing is, the reason she got away with them for so long is because she's skinny with a small butt and big boobs. And so from 18 to 38, she was pretty much on top of the world. And so people, you give a skinny girl with big boobs a lot of passes. Because the thing is, when she was doing her stand-up, she's funny, but she's not that funny. And I'm not just saying, like her she builds up a joke with tension and the resolution, but she steps on the resolution part where the audience is supposed to, you give them a couple beats, a couple seconds to digest the punchline, and you don't, she would step on it and start saying like, like, and you hear me and you hear a lot of other YouTubers do these kind of conversational faux pas, these conversational crutches. We're not professional comedians who are making, you know, $90,000 for a stand-up gig. And, you know, honestly, if I did this video twice, it would be a little bit more polished. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, her big selling point was she had nice D cups and she was skinny. And then as she kind of aged out of that role, people are, I don't know, maybe just getting tired of her shtick. Anyway, is this too base for YouTube? Probably. This is actually the second time making this video, and I was like, this is really not worth doing. 2 or 3 times. Anyway, sub to Odysee, Bit Chute. Definitely get on Odysee. Odysee is freaking awesome.